Hello and welcome back to Girl Ascending. So tonight we're going to be doing our full moon in Aries tarot reads for all the 12 signs. I've got my tarot deck ready to go, lovely autumnal colours, and this is the Bad Bitches tarot deck because the full moon in Aries, also known as the blood moon, is all about looking at relationships. So that's what we're really going to be digging in deeply with tonight. Now this is the blood moon. We have the full moon in Aries opposing the sun and also Venus in Libra. So we've got those Libra love energies coming in as well from Venus, and traditionally this was called the blood moon because hunters at the time would go and try and kill, unfortunately, as many animals as possible to kind of see them through the winter. So we're really kind of drawing on that energy of passion, of blood, but also of sustenance and sustaining ourselves. So how are the relationships around us building us up? How are they tearing us down, taking us away from our true self? And also how are we kind of digging deeper into our self-love and our relationship with ourselves, which is of course the most important relationship that we have. So let's get started. Also as well, before we go into tarot, if any of you have seen the new Hocus Pocus movie, I would love to hear your opinions on it. For me, it wasn't my favourite at all. I was a bit disappointed with it, but I know some people have loved it, some people kind of mixed opinions. So yes, leave your comments below and we can chat about that as well. Okay, so our first sign that we have is Aries. This is of course the full moon in your sign, so you're going to really feel any energies super intensely, so just to be a bit aware of that. Okay, so we have one card jumping out already. Let's see who else wants to come and greet us for the full moon. We have this one, and also I feel very drawn to this one as well. So let's see who we have coming out for us. Okay, so we have the Eight of Pentacles, we have the Six of Swords, and then we also have the Knight of Wands in the reverse. So when we're having a look at these cards, we've really got that idea that we have maybe been focusing on a period of self-improvement, and that's also something that we can do, you know, single or in a relationship. Improving ourselves is always going to be an important part of our human spiritual journey. But sometimes with the Eight of Pentacles coming up, we can also feel that sense of a delay. So maybe we've been through a really difficult time in our relationship with ourselves. Maybe we've had to overcome some really difficult times and we're kind of waiting now for things to come back into their equilibrium again. So we've worked really hard to improve ourselves, to be the very best version of ourselves, primarily of course for ourselves, but also to show up in a better way for the people around us as well. And we're now kind of in that waiting period of, okay, I'm here, come on life, you know, let's see what else you've got to offer for me. And then with the Six of Swords as well, we have that kind of sensation of feeling a little bit defeated, that maybe there's been some sneakiness or some motivations in the background, some secrets that were traumatizing for us or damaging, especially when it comes to relationships. So maybe someone betrayed us in a relationship in some way, or maybe we betrayed ourselves in order to sustain a relationship, which can be super, super damaging as well. So we're now kind of trying to move away from those toxic traits into a time of self-improvement, but that obviously does take time. So we're really kind of feeling that build-up of energy, and it kind of doesn't have anywhere to go at the moment. We're still kind of feeling that sensation of, okay, you know, what's going to be happening, what's going to be happening next. And then when we have the King of Wands in the reverse, it's that idea that we really want to progress and we want to move forward. We maybe want to either meet a new partner, we want to maybe improve the relationship that we already have with our existing partner, but we're not quite on top of that communication yet. So maybe we want to meet someone new, but we're a bit scared, or we don't know quite how to do it. Or maybe there's someone in your life already that you have a little bit of a crush on or that you like, but you're not quite sure how to express that to them at the moment. Or maybe in your existing relationship, you're kind of scared to ask for what you really want. Maybe you accepted a certain standard of behavior for such a long time that you now feel that if you go against the grain, if you go against that, that the person you're with may reject you, or it may bring the relationship to an end, which can be obviously understandably a bit turbulent, a bit scary. But I would say that these cards are really supporting you in this time of change, of letting go of any toxic habits, toxic opinions and limiting beliefs in association with relationships, both past and present as well, but that you are going to be feeling this kind of necessary delay. And I think in the kind of culture that we live in today, we're so used to having instant gratification, that everything is at our fingertips. You know, we can quite literally sort of order a relationship to our door in a way if we really wanted to, but the cards are really advising that you kind of sit with yourself a bit longer, that you have put in the work, and that your relationships will flourish and grow as part of it, but you're still in that kind of nourishing period. So I would really advise you to do some lovely self-care for this Aries new moon, obviously being in your sign as well. You really kind of feel these emotions very deeply, so you want to not get too down on yourself about it. Good things are coming, that relationship that you want is coming, but you just need to kind of take a step back and allow time to kind of pave the way for you. You just have to be a little bit patient. So these are your cards for the full moon in Aries. I will see you next time for the new moon in Scorpio. Hello to Taurus. So we now have your 3-card energy read for the full moon in Aries. So let's see what we have coming up. Let's see what is poking out. So we've got 1, 2 here. Ooh, and this one is coming out with it as well. So we will do these 3. Okay, so we have the 10 of Cups. We have the 2 of Wands, and then we also have Justice as well. Okay, so starting off with the 10 of Cups, obviously this is a lovely card to get in any reading, but especially when we're thinking about our relationships, because it's really about finding that emotional pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So whether you're in a relationship or you're not, this card is showing that real sensation of contentment, that you are feeling loved and supported, that you are surrounded by people in your life, in your circle, who have shown time and again that they are there for you, that they're showing up for you, and that is helping you to feel so supported, so nourished, which is really important, because we also have Aries coming into Chiron as well, which normally is kind of acts a bit like Pluto. It's that portal into a bit of darkness, and it kind of shows up sometimes things about ourselves that we find uncomfortable. But by having the 10 of Cups coming through, this shows that we are in a really supported position at the moment, which is something that is then kind of going to expand into our next card, which is the 2 of Wands. And the 2 of Wands is all about kind of whittling down our vision and helping us to see those endless possibilities. So we've got this lovely foundation. It's kind of acting like a springboard for us, because the relationship that we feel within ourselves, but also with the other people around us in our life at the moment, is helping us to see that actually we can move on, we can move forward and follow our dreams in whatever way we choose, because we've got that real solid foundation behind us. And this card doesn't necessarily mean a family in a traditional sense. It can mean, you know, chosen family, friends, people at work that are really, really supporting you. But what it comes down to is that the relationships that you have around you at the moment are the chosen ones for you, that are really allowing you to show up as your best self, which is what we really want and want to look for. However, we also have the Justice card tagging in at the end, and this is obviously a very appropriate card to come up during Libra season. But what we really want to be thinking when we see this card, especially at this time, is okay, so we've got all this positive energy coming through, but we also have this as a kind of sort of whisper in the corner behind us that's saying, you know, justice can be about balance, but it's not balance in a kind of harmonious sense. It's more that way that we need to balance ourselves. So when things are going so well, we want to remember to have that sense of balance within ourselves as well. So how are we balancing out our positive side, but also our shadow side? We can't let ourselves get so, you know, carried away in everything going so well and feeling so positive and so good about everything that we start to kind of you know, push down those darker emotions and the darker side of ourselves in order to sustain a positive thing in our life. Because sometimes when things are going really well, we don't want to give in to any sort of darker side or listen to our self-saboteur. We don't want to give in to our shadow self, because we don't want to kind of disrupt things when things are going well. But having that sensation of balance is really, really important, because by acknowledging our negatives as well as our positives, we're able to always move forward in a much more positive and authentic way. And that ultimately is what will help sustain a happy and healthy relationship in all areas of our life. So we really want to be thinking about that. And we also want to remember as well that when justice comes up in a relationship reading or context, sometimes it can indicate that in the past, perhaps you were done dirty, there was some kind of trauma in a relationship that was never fully resolved, and you don't want that to kind of steal your present joy. You know, if you have a very destructive ex, or even perhaps you were the toxic person for yourself in a previous relationship, you don't want to carry that energy into the possibilities of your future. You want to keep both of these things as separately as possible. So that's what we want to kind of keep in mind over the next couple of weeks, to enjoy the positives, to take advantage of all the opportunities that are coming your way, but to also not be afraid to check in with your shadow self and make sure that you're not getting too carried away, too separated from actually the real authenticity of the both sides of yourself. So these are our cards for the full moon in Aries. I will see you again for the Scorpio new moon. Hello to Gemini. So now it's time to do your full moon reading in Aries. Let's see what cards we have coming up for you. This one is booking out, so we will take her and then these two as well. So let's see what we have coming up. Okay, so we have got the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse, we have the Page of Wands, and then we also have the Queen of Swords in the reverse. Okay, so when we're looking at this cards, what we want to be thinking about is, if we're in a difficult time at the moment, we're thinking obviously particularly about relationships when it comes to this full moon. If we're in a difficult relationship at the moment, maybe we're in a kind of a toxic cycle in a relationship where we're with someone, but we know that they're not quite who we want to be with, but we're really struggling to kind of separate ourselves from them because maybe it's a long-term relationship, maybe we've been single for a while, or maybe we're just tied up to them, you know, financially. We don't know what we would do if that relationship ended, so we're kind of feeling that sense of being a bit stuck. But it could also be if you've been single for quite a long time, or perhaps a relationship has just ended, you're kind of feeling that sense of, you know, the wheels are grinding to a halt a bit. You're not quite sure how to get back into dating again, into meeting someone else. You're not maybe even sure if it's something that you want to be doing at the moment. But the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse is encouraging us to remember that, okay, things might not be kind of going as smoothly as we would like them to go right now, but that is okay, because the wheel obviously will come back round again at some point and things will start to get better. So it's kind of more, what can we learn from this period where things don't feel like they're going our way, or where we're kind of feeling that sensation of resistance, of being stuck in a relationship. You know, how can we progress forward from there? And with the Page of Wands coming through, we've got that lovely kind of idea of, you know, you have so many ideas of what you want to do with your life, and this can be in a relationship context, but also in a bigger picture as well. You know, the wands to me are all about that kind of expansiveness, that fire. You know, there is so much about you, so much going for you. Is the relationship that you're in holding you back, or is it proving a distraction? You know, sometimes maybe you feel a pressure to date, but actually you don't want to. You've got so many ideas. There are business things that you want to be doing. You want to be moving yourself forward in a different way that doesn't necessarily necessitate having a partner with you at the moment. Maybe you are feeling, I'm very much feeling that sensation of someone who feels that they're being held back from fulfilling their full potential, which is obviously something that we never want to feel. We want to always feel that we are flourishing in our relationships. And then with the Queen of Swords coming in the reverse, it's that idea that, yes, you know, we're kind of feeling in a bit of a rut, a bit stuck. We kind of know what we want to do, how we want to move forward, but we're not quite sure how to get there. And the Queen of Swords in the reverse is kind of accentuating that. You know, it's saying to us that our voice is kind of dampened down at the moment. It's almost like we know what we want to say, those words are hovering in our throat, but we just can't quite articulate them for a number of different reasons. You know, sometimes ending a relationship is very scary because we always think about the person who is the dumped. You know, they're often the person that gets the focus as being the victim or the one that deserves sympathy. But often it can be really challenging if you fall out of love with someone to think, okay, well, how do I end this relationship? Because we have so much tied up together, so much history, so much backstory. How can I separate myself from them in order to follow my own journey without kind of damaging them in a way that I don't want to? And that can be quite challenging. So I would definitely say over the next couple of weeks, really examine the relationships that are existing in your life, obviously primarily romantically, but it can also apply to family relationships and also kind of friendships as well. Are you feeling held back from achieving your true potential, your true self? And how do you want to kind of articulate that to the people around you? You know, following your authentic path is a key part of your human experience, and that is something that you deserve to be able to do. And if something or someone is holding you back from that, then they do not have your best interest at heart. So you need to kind of maybe have a little think about how that is showing up for you in your life at the moment. But these are your cards for the full moon in Aries. I will chat to you again on the new moon in Scorpio. Hello to all my Cancers. So now it's time for your 3-card energy reading for the full moon in Aries. So let us see which 3 cards are coming up for you. So I've got this one poking out already, so we'll take her out. Whoop. and then this one is sticking as well, and this one. So let's see what we have got. Okay, so we've got the Knight of Wands in the reverse, we've got the Three of Cups, and then we've also got the Four of Pentacles. Okay, so when we're looking at these cards and thinking about relationships in that kind of context, because obviously that's the dominant energy that we're feeling around the full moon in Aries, what I'm really seeing is that you are feeling very stuck when it comes to who you are and your self-identification. So perhaps you've always thought of yourself in a certain way, or had a certain ambition that you always felt very tied to, maybe a career path or how you saw yourself in life. And that's not really kind of happened for you so far. It's not really manifested. And instead you feel that you've been very drawn into what the people around you are doing and what they want you to do. Because the Three of Cups obviously is a card predominantly about friendships, about socializing, about partying. And although obviously that can be a wonderful thing, friends are really important to us. I mean, friends are often our chosen family, so we do want to celebrate that. But with the Knight of Wands coming in first in the reverse, it's that idea that maybe who you are and who you need to be is kind of been diluted by the people that you are hanging around with at the moment. And although obviously that doesn't mean that you get rid of all your friends or you turn your back on them or anything like that, it's more this idea that perhaps the people you're surrounding yourself with at the moment are proving a distraction, and that you kind of want to assess who you're spending your time with and what you're spending your energy on, in order to then focus a bit more on who you actually are and where you kind of see yourself progressing over the next few months. And with the Four of Pentacles showing up, this kind of shows to me that although things may have gone well on sort of a superficial level, so it may seem to other people that you're doing well, that your life looks great from, say, the outside. So people might see your relationship as great, you've got a decent job, things are kind of pottering along quite well. Actually, when it comes down to it, you're feeling a lot of insecurities within yourself, and you're kind of feeling like you want to close yourself off and shut down in a way, because you're not quite sure how things are progressing. And especially obviously this card relates to money and kind of that sensation of hoarding, of holding on to things. But when we're thinking about a relationship context, it's that sensation again of feeling very closed off. So even if you're in a relationship, you're kind of closing yourself off. You want to keep you and your partner maybe away from other people, because you're feeling like that's kind of your rock, your way of grounding yourself, because there are so many other people around you trying to influence you. So you really kind of seek solace in that relationship. But conversely, what that's actually doing is that's kind of separating your relationship from the rest of your life, and it's kind of making things very difficult. So you're kind of struggling between what you want, the people around you want, and what your partner wants as well. So all these kind of destructive energies are coming in and fighting one another. And obviously with the Aries blood moon, there's a lot of that kind of lusty, frenetic energy anyway, so we really want to try and dampen that down. So what I would suggest is that over the next couple of weeks until we come up to that full moon, that you really want to focus on balancing the relationships in your life. So if there is something that you really want to do, that you really want to go for, find a way to incorporate it into the life that you have already created for yourself, and just have an awareness as to who you are hanging around with, and are they actually helping you or hindering you in showing up as your full self. And when it comes to your partner, don't feel that you need to hide away in order to preserve that relationship. If it is a strong relationship, it can survive without that, so pardon me. So yes, so you don't need to close yourself off in your relationship in order to help it to sustain. If it's a strong relationship, it can survive. So these are your cards for the full moon in Aries. I will see you again for the new moon in Scorpio. Okay, so the sun has now officially gone down, so we're going to carry on with the rest of our reading. So now we've come to Leo, Leo. So let's see what cards we have coming up for you for this full moon in Aries. Okay, so this one is poking out, and this one here, this one too. Okay, so that's what we've got coming up. So we have got the sun, we've got the Hermit, and then we have got the Emperor in the reverse. Okay, so we've got big major arcana energy coming in, which is super cool. So let's start off with the sun. So obviously Leo is ruled by the sun, so this is very in alignment for you. And when we're thinking about relationships, Leos often want to be the star of the show, so the one that everything revolves around, and that is not a read or anything negative. I have my Leo ascending, so I am very familiar with this kind of energy, but what it means is that you need to feel like you are their number one person, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. We all want to feel that we are important, that we matter to someone, and that someone is able to prioritize our needs as well as their own. We don't want to feel, you know, that we are in a relationship with someone as an option. We want to be the only choice. So I'm really feeling that energy coming through strongly for you, that you're either in a relationship at the moment where you're feeling that way and things are going quite positively, or that is what you're actively seeking to find in a relationship, both of which are very, very positive. And then when we come to the Hermit, we kind of have a opposing energy to that going on, really. So sometimes when we are looking for a relationship where we can kind of be the star of the show, number one on the call sheet, you know, we want to be that number one person, sometimes we can forget that actually we need to take a bit of time for ourselves as well and have those moments of introspection. But what I'm really feeling here is perhaps that you have been the dominating force in a relationship, and that you are now feeling that actually you want to take a bit more time out just for yourself, but you're kind of feeling a bit of a push and pull about that, that you very strongly identify with this kind of energy anyway, that strong solar energy, and you find it harder to pull away and spend some time just doing your own thing, prioritizing your own needs on your own. So what I would really encourage you to do over these next couple of weeks is to think about that deepening relationship with yourself and showing yourself some more self-love. And when we have the Emperor coming up in the reverse, it's that subversion of masculine energy, divine masculine energy. So that kind of is almost like a bit of a self-betrayal going on. So although we are often in that star position, that's where we like to be, that's where we feel in that solar position, where we feel the happiest and the most seen and loved, we still want to make sure that we're making time for ourselves, that we are able to reconnect just with ourselves on that self-love level, in order that we can shine at our most brightest, and that we are also able to kind of understand that we need to take that time to reorganize within ourselves our own feelings, our own emotions, that we are not allowing someone else to push over our boundaries. Because with the Emperor in the reverse, that's what always comes up to me very strongly, especially in a relationship reading, is what is going on with boundaries. You know, in order to be in the kind of relationship that you actively desire, are you overlooking things that actually you shouldn't be because they're not serving you at your greatest purpose in the best way? You know, perhaps you do need to take a bit more time out to really think about what it is you want from this relationship and where it's going. And obviously plenty of single Leos out there as well. So what I would encourage you to do is to make sure that if you are actively looking for love, that you're making sure that you're doing it in a way that still supports you in your boundaries. I think a lot of us have a set of boundaries in place, but then when we meet someone that we like or that we kind of think that we vibe with, we often lower our boundaries for that particular person because we like them, and then later on down the line we realise, okay, I probably shouldn't have done that. So to just be kind of mindful of that. And if you are happily single, what I would say is to have a bit of a time to think about how can you show up to be sort of the star of your own life. You know, what do you really want in this moment? Take that time away to think about prioritising yourself, and really again, like, restructure boundaries with friends and family, because often when we have goals and ambitions for ourselves, they become kind of diluted by our everyday responsibilities. And especially if you're that person that everyone comes to, you're someone that people rely on for advice, for help, for support, it can be really hard to turn that down and say, actually, I need to prioritise myself for a little while. But that's what I would say you really need to focus on for the next couple of weeks, is how am I prioritising myself, and to really look at boundary control as well. But these are our cards for Leo for the Aries full moon. I will see you again for the new moon in Scorpio. Okay, hello to Virgo. It's now time to take a peek at your 3 cards for the next couple of weeks. So let's see what is coming up for you all. So let's have a look. Whoop, sticking a bit. Okay, let's have a peek. So we have the 7 of Cups. We have the Hanged Woman, which is actually in the reverse. And then we also have the Knight of Pentacles. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. So at the moment, whether you are in a relationship, single or dating, you are overwhelmed by choices. So these could either be choices of what to do in terms of picking a new partner. Maybe you're kind of dating a few people at the same time, which is often the case for something like online dating. Or if you've been in a relationship for a while, maybe there are a few choices open to you as to where the relationship could go next, but you're not quite sure what you want to do, whether you want to deepen that commitment, you know, move forward with things like getting engaged or moving in, taking those bigger steps, or whether you kind of want to kind of connect with yourself a bit more first, because sometimes in you know, long-term relationships, very quickly things can start to get very serious once you live with someone and you have joint financial commitments or children and that sort of thing, and then trying to make choices can seem overwhelming because all your choices are very much informed by the life you already have with this person. So that can feel super tricky. And especially for Virgos who are very sort of kind of not necessarily homebodies, but for Virgos in a traditional sense, family is super, super important. So making these choices can feel incredibly challenging and difficult. And with the sorry, I've just seen a face come up on the camera. This happens sometimes in this room. There is, I'm just kind of digressing a little bit. There is a ghost in my house, and we live in an area that was used a lot during the Civil War, occupied, and I think there is a soldier that sometimes comes into our house. My oldest son has seen him as well, and sometimes I see him in this room. Apologies, sorry, that just threw me off a little bit. So then moving on, so yes, so you're overwhelmed by a lot of choices, which do often happen in relationship contexts anyway. So it's that idea of, who do I want to date? And if you're in a relationship, how do I want this relationship to move forward? And then when we have the Hanged Woman in the reverse, that's kind of that idea that we're subverting our own spiritual needs. So obviously our relationship with ourselves is the most important relationship, because without having that core relationship with yourself, you can't then move on to having a successful relationship with someone else. And it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect or that you have to accept yourself 100%, because I don't think anyone really ever gets to that stage. We're always learning and growing. It's more that idea that you need to be in a space where you are taking time to care for yourself on a spiritual level on a consistent basis. And sometimes when you're in a relationship that is very demanding, where you feel like, you know, you're maybe being pressured into moving things too fast, or you're dating quite a few people and you're not kind of sure who you want to date, where things are really going, it can feel very spiritually disconnecting. And also I would say, and this is said without any kind of judgment at all, sometimes when we are in a dating phase, we may be dating in a sexual sense multiple partners in maybe a shorter space of time. And what I would really say is that when you have a sexual connection with someone, you are allowing that person to imprint on you in a very kind of deeply spiritual sense. And obviously there's no problem with that at all, but it is just something to be aware of, because often when you allow yourself to get into that circle of intimacy with someone, it can then, they can sort of leave behind on you part of their spiritual makeup. And I think some of us do often feel that there's like a heaviness of a sensation afterwards. So you just kind of want to be a bit aware of that. If that is something that you're feeling at the moment, I'm definitely feeling that coming through quite strongly for some of you at the moment. But then lastly, we have the Knight of Pentacles. And what this says to me is that you are kind of mission orientated, and you have a goal with the kind of relationship that you are looking for, and that you know what is what it is that you are after. This kind of normally suggests to me something to do with career, but coming in a more relationship reading, it means that even though, you know, there are periods where you feel that there's a lot of choice, of feeling a bit overwhelmed, and that, you know, you're also trying to reconnect with yourself, maybe you've been neglecting that for a while, you are still very focused on what it is that you want and what you're looking for. And actually sometimes that can make choices even harder, because when you know what it is that you really want, it's almost like having that box ticking sheet for your ideal partner. You know kind of what it is that you're looking for, and you're almost screening out people who don't quite meet that criteria. But I would encourage you to maybe not be quite so pedantic about a potential partner and go much more with what your spiritual side is saying about them, as well as obviously being sensible and listening to your heart and your head as well. But it's that idea that there is a lot of choice happening for you in relationship context, both for those who are single, those who are taken. Actually, I don't really like that word. Let's not use taken. In a relationship. And that you're able to kind of know what it is that you want and what you're looking for, but that's almost creating more choices because you're so focused and such a perfectionist, of course, being a Virgo, knowing exactly what you want. So over the course of this full moon in the next couple of weeks, I would really encourage you to examine that perfectionism when it comes to your relationships, and maybe try and let go of that a little bit, but obviously still stay conscious of the choices that you are making around relationships and how you are looking to kind of show up for yourself in amongst all that as well. But these are our cards for the Aries full moon. I will see you again for the new moon in Scorpio. Hello to all my lovely Libras. It is now time for your full moon in Aries reading. So let's see what 3 cards we've got coming up for you. Obviously with the focus being primarily on relationships. I've already got a couple of cards that are trying to jump out. So let's see what we have got. Okie dokie. So we have got the Hermit. We have got the King of Wands in the reverse, and then we have also got the 9 of Wands in reverse as well. Okay, so when we look at this card, we can see quite strongly with the Hermit that perhaps we are taking a bit of a break from relationships, or maybe we want to take a bit of a break from our relationship. So it could either be that you've actively decided that you don't want to date anyone at the moment, or perhaps you're in a relationship where you're kind of taking a break, cooling things down a little bit. But it could also be if you're kind of feeling quite settled and quite happy in your relationship, that you've also got to that point where, I don't want to say things are getting boring, but where things are getting a bit more stale and you're kind of thinking a bit more introspectively about your relationship and dating and how you want things to progress going forward. And with the King of Wands, it's that idea that your kind of creative sexual energy is maybe not being satisfied in the ideal way that you would like it to. So maybe you're kind of feeling a bit of stagnation in your sex life and your connection to your partner. Maybe you're feeling that there's kind of not been that connection with someone else for quite a long time. Maybe you kind of actively been dating and you've been looking to find that new partner, but you've just not really found that exact connection yet. And I think that's obviously something that is very normal, that we often come up against in life, and it's good to wait until you really feel that connection with someone often in order to feel totally satisfied in your relationship, whether it's a short relationship or something more long term. And then when we have the 9 of Wands in the reverse, it's that idea that a period of stress and strain is kind of ebbing away. So these cards could also signify actually at the moment that maybe you've had to have a little hiatus in your sex life due to stress. So this could be something that you have had to deal with directly, or it could be a situation that your partner is involved in that's maybe kind of impacting on your sex life as well, where you're feeling a bit disconnected from yourself. Maybe your partner is feeling disconnected from themselves as well, and it's just kind of that ultimate disconnection where things are not physically or mentally kind of fitting together quite right, and you're having a bit of a down period when it comes to physical intimacy. But obviously there's a lot that can be really positive about times like this, because it allows you to reconnect in other ways. It allows you to kind of refine that spark, that reason why you wanted to be with that person in the first place. And if you're single, it's also a great time to kind of re-explore yourself, your body, and decide, actually, you know, what do I want for myself? What do I enjoy? How does my body feel good? What feels right for me? So that can be a really positive thing as well. And then when we've got the 9 of Wands coming into the reverse, it's that idea of letting go of kind of guilt and shame around sex as well, because oftentimes, you know, we grow up in different households, different situations, but there can be a lot of shame or taboo around sex and around that physical intimacy and connection. And if it's not something that you see growing up, or if it's something where, you know, you kind of feel you've had conflicting information or stories about it, it can then feel quite difficult as an adult to fully flourish and enjoy sex, both in a relationship and out of it as well. So for this full moon, I would definitely encourage you to explore your sexuality, your sexual side, again, obviously in a safe way that feels comfortable and that feels right for you, whether you're on your own or dating or with a partner, just to kind of examine your more sexy side and really kind of feel back into that energy again about what makes you feel good and happy and how your body feels best to you, and to kind of let go of any limiting beliefs or stories that you have around sex, but also around, you know, your physicality, and kind of really make sure that you're tapping into that spark again. You know, don't be afraid of you know, giving in and feeling a certain way. You don't always have to kind of separate yourself from a sexual experience. You are allowed to, you know, enjoy it and really be involved in it, whether on your own or with someone else as well. So these are our cards for the the full moon in Aries, and I will see you again for the new moon in Scorpio. Hello to Scorpio. It is now time for your 3-card read for the full moon in Aries. So let us see what is coming up for you this evening. Okay. Right, so let us have a look. Okay, so we have got the Empress, we've got the King of Cups in the reverse, and then we've got the Devil. Okay, so this is a nice, interesting mix coming up for us. So obviously we're looking with the full moon in Aries, the blood moon, primarily at relationships for this reading, and coming up with the Empress straight away, we've got that lovely, rich kind of female divine energy coming through straight away, which tells me that you have a very good connection with yourself, that you are feeling comfortable in your own skin. This may have been something that you've always felt, or it might have been a bit more of a process, but you're definitely feeling that kind of lovely indulgent sense of, yes, you know, I'm happy with myself, my body, I'm feeling comfortable with who I am and how I'm showing up when I, you know, meet new people, or how I am in my relationship. I'm feeling very comfortable and sexy in whatever way that feels good to me. And then when we have also the King of Cups coming through, that kind of suggests to me that although in relationships with other people and with yourself, you're feeling very grounded in that lovely kind of feminine, rich kind of curvaceous energy, I can't help it, I just want to move like this. With the King of Cups coming in the reverse, it's also suggesting to me that maybe you're kind of switching off your intuition a little bit. So although you may be feeling good about yourself and positive in that deeply kind of feminine way that we can all feel, that you're kind of switching your intuition off a bit. So maybe you are attracting a good selection of partners, people that could be suitable for you, but you're not always listening to your intuition. So you're maybe falling for someone's potential rather than their reality, which obviously isn't fair on either person in the situation, because obviously you deserve to love someone who's right for you, and they deserve to love someone who will love them just as they are. So we kind of want to be a little bit careful of that, that even when we're feeling sexy, we're feeling good in ourselves, we also want to make sure that we are allowing that intuition to talk to us properly, so that we are connected to our emotional side, that we're not just feeling, you know, kind of very earthy and sexy in the body, that we're also connecting it in the mind as well. And then with the Devil, obviously this is always calling us to have a think about our shadow self as well. So I feel really maybe what is going on for you at the moment is that you are enjoying yourself in a very physical sense, and that you're maybe enjoying the more physical side of a relationship or a connection, or kind of maybe having a few little crushes here and there. If you're in a relationship, I would say that maybe that side of your relationship is still going strong, quite positive, but that there is a fundamental disconnection in place coming in from an emotional side. And it could even be that perhaps you're with a partner who is disconnecting from you. So even though you have like physical proximity, you live together, you kind of touch, whatever, there's that disconnect where the intimacy doesn't feel like the circle is completing. There is that kind of chink, that disconnection going on. And definitely with the Devil, this is kind of calling us to be a bit aware of our bad habits or our self-saboteur. So even when we're feeling good in ourselves, when we are not connecting to our intuition, to that little voice, to our emotional side, we are much more likely to fall into bad habits. So drinking too much, partying too much, being too obsessed with how we look, material possessions. And we obviously want to stay away from all of that, because in order to feel good in like a, you know, a relationship sense, we don't have to look a certain way, be a certain shape, live up to anyone else's ideals but our own, and we don't need to use crutches that the kind of the Devil card suggests to us in order to be able to feel all those things about ourselves. So I would say during this full moon, maybe have a little think about how your shadow self is kind of holding up your relationship progress, whether you're single or in a relationship. How are those kind of bad habits creeping in, and how are you blocking off emotions so that you're, you know, what are you feeling good about physically, but then what is kind of sticking you emotionally is what I would suggest that you kind of focus on for this full moon, and obviously the next couple of weeks as well. But overall, it's a very positive spread. You know, it's very difficult to feel good in our bodies in a society that is always trying to transform us and change us and persuade us to be other people. So to stand in your power in that way is really incredible. But we have to just remember that keeping in touch with our emotions and allowing our emotions to show and be vulnerable is a key part of accessing that divine feminine energy as well. And we don't want to use crutches or any kind of self-sabotaging behaviour, because ultimately that will only bring, you know, more negativity towards us, so we want to avoid that. But these are our cards for the full moon in Aries. I will see you again for your new moon for Scorpio season. Yes, and we'll catch up then. Hello to Sagittarius. It is now time for your 3-card reading, so let us see what cards are coming up. Got a couple flying out already. Pardon me. Okay. Let's see what we have got in store, and we're looking primarily at relationships for this particular reading. Okay, so we've got the 9 of Wands, we've got the 10 of Swords in the reverse, and then we've also got the Ace of Wands. So when we're looking at this, we are really feeling that sensation of being a bit overwhelmed in our current relationship. So that could be either the relationship that you're in at the moment, that you feel that everything is always on you, that everything is always being pushed onto you to deal with. And Sagittarius traditionally are a very optimistic sign, so they're often quite happy to be the one that sorts everything out. They have that positive attitude, but kind of underneath that they're carrying a lot of weight and burden, and it's actually kind of pulling you down. And that can also be the case as well for single Sagittarius, that because they come across in such a positive way that people don't often see the kind of burdens that are going on under the surface and the reasons why perhaps you are looking for a partner. Maybe you want to be single, maybe you don't, but it's that idea that things are kind of a bit overwhelming and there's a sensation of a burden going on. And then especially when we come to look at the 10 of Swords, so the 10 of Swords is in the reverse, which is positive really, because that's showing that although you've been through a period where things have been quite heavy, that you've been carrying a lot of responsibility in your relationships, or you've kind of, if you've been dating, you've been coming up against brick walls, you know, meeting people who are just not right for you, in that kind of sense of, oh gosh, you know, am I ever going to meet the right person? Is this ever going to turn out how I would like it to? The 10 of Swords are showing up in the reverse to let you know that yes, you will, that this period of things feeling difficult and feeling stressful in your relationship or in your dating game, that things are going to start to dissipate and that things will feel a lot stronger and a lot happier soon. And obviously with the Ace of Wands coming in, now it doesn't look quite as phallic on this particular deck as it does in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but the Ace of Wands is a very phallic card, and whatever your sexual preference, it is the moniker for big sexual energy, charged spark. Yes, everything is good to go. So what I would suggest is perhaps you're going through a difficult period in your dating game, in your relationship, but that things are really going to turn out in a very positive way, and you're really going to feel that lovely kind of lustful feeling, whether it's for your partner, but it could also be for yourself as well, because during periods of intense stress, we often disconnect from ourselves because we have to kind of shut down, numb things down a little bit in order to then move past things that have been really difficult, really stressful. And this is the card that's saying to you that that sexual release, that unlocking is on the horizon, and that things are going to be starting to feel a lot more comfortable, a lot less stressful, and that you're going to feel a lot more present both in your relationship and also in your ability to be dating. Because I think for some of us, especially in the modern world, dating can feel like a bit of a chore. We can definitely feel that 9 of Wands energy of, you know, feeling a bit overwhelmed and also maybe a bit defeated. You know, we don't want to keep going through this process over and over again to meet a partner. And equally, if you're in a relationship, that 9 of Wands energy can be strong there as well, because sometimes in a relationship it can feel like you're kind of stuck in an endless cycle with someone where things get a little bit better and then they don't, and then they get a little bit better and they don't. But because they do get that bit better. Sometimes you kind of end up staying and it can lead to a really dangerous cycle, but luckily because we have the Ten of Swords in the reverse, you are avoiding that dangerous trap of being you know, drawn into the drama of a toxic relationship. This is the card that's saying that whatever relationship strife you're going through at the moment, whether you're single, dating or in a relationship, that it's going to have a very positive outcome, and that things are going to start to feel much more positive soon, especially when it comes to sexual connections, both in potential partners, your current partner, but also with yourself as well. So these are your cards for the full moon in Aries. I will catch up with you again for the new moon in Scorpio. Hello to Capricorn. It is now time to do your 3-card reading for the full moon in Aries. So let us see what is coming up. Okay, so this one is poking out, this one here, and then we'll go for, I feel, this one as well. Okay, so let's see who is joining us from the deck today. Okay, so we have the Sun in the reverse, we have the 6 of Swords, and then we also have the 2 of Cups. So when we're looking at this, what we're kind of seeing is that idea that maybe we were in a relationship with someone in the past where we were the center of attention, we had their full focus, and that we've somehow lost that attention. It could also be that we are still in that same relationship, but for whatever reason, we can now not do anything right. We are, you know, we feel that we haven't changed, but the other person is changing their behavior towards us, and we feel quite betrayed by them. And with the 6 of Swords coming in especially, we're feeling that there's maybe something kind of going on in the background that we're not privy to, you know, that maybe there is some kind of secret that's going to come to light as to why their behaviour towards us has changed. But that's not necessarily something to worry about, because then we have the 2 of Cups coming through at the end, which parallels, of course, with the Lovers in the major arcana. So it's that idea that maybe your relationship is kind of not quite on the track that it used to be. Maybe there are some secrets or some difficult conversations that need to be discussed, but that ultimately you will come to the best partnership out of it possible. Now that could mean that your current relationship, if you're in a relationship at the moment, will progress in a really positive way and you will find that kind of ideal life partnership. Or it could also mean that if the 2 of you decide that continuing the relationship is not something that is in the best interest for either of you, for both of you, for one of you, that you will still be able to maintain a really positive friendship, which can be quite difficult to do, but the cards are indicating that this is something that you will be able to do. And equally, if you are single, it can be difficult sometimes to kind of feel like no one is there for you, that you're on your own. As a Capricorn, you know, often Capricorns are very practical, very organised, they're quite career focused. So for a Capricorn to have someone, you know, to take their attention to a relationship, a Capricorn does need to feel like they're number one in general. This is just kind of typically speaking. And so Capricorns are generally waiting for that. So if you're not feeling that, you're kind of not so inclined to want to date. Maybe you'll date a few people, you know, go on a couple of dates, but you're not necessarily going to be drawn into a serious relationship. And that's also where the kind of the secret side of it may be coming out for you, where maybe if you are just dating a few different people, hedging your bets, maybe they might come back and treat you in a way that you're not prepared for and may not necessarily like. So I would just say to have a little bit of awareness of that if you're currently, you know, doing the online dating a few different people at once, that maybe some of them are actually not how they appear to be, and you might be wasting your time a little bit. But then when we have the 2 of Cups coming through, this is obviously showing very strongly that a partnership is in your future, that things are moving in that direction. So over this full moon, I would definitely say to you to meditate and think about what do you want in that partnership. This is not just if you're single, if you're in a relationship as well. How do you want your partner to show up for you? How do you want to show up for them? What does your ideal partnership look like? And that will help you to kind of move into a better space as to what relationship is right for you. So, you know, wanting to be the center of attention can be quite normal in a relationship, but in order to kind of occupy that position, you have to be prepared to treat your partner as if they're the most important person, so that then you've got that balance. Obviously Libra season, we're always thinking about balance as well, and that if there are any secrets or any difficult conversations brewing in the background, I would definitely encourage you over this full moon to maybe broach those or speak about them. Don't let them just stay hidden or in the past. You want to make sure that you're moving forward as positively as possible. in order to get to this position of open communication where things are feeling very physically and emotionally balanced as well. So these are our cards for Capricorn for the full moon in Aries. I will see you again for the new moon in Scorpio. Hello to Aquarius. It is now time to do your full moon in Aries reading. So let's see what 3 cards are coming up for you tonight. Okay, right, so we have, and then, okay, so we've got the Hierophant in the reverse, we have the 10 of Cups, and then we have the 4 of Swords. Okay, so when we're looking at these cards, what we're really thinking about when it comes to our relationships is reaching out to someone else to help us initially with something that we're going through. So if we are in a situation at the moment where we're in a relationship and we're kind of coming to those natural roadblocks or stumbling blocks, or maybe there is quite a big issue that has raised itself that we're needing to deal with, or perhaps we've been single for a while and we're kind of dating people but we're not really finding partners that we really feel align with who we are and what we are really looking for. This card is really saying in the reverse, it's time to reach out for someone else. So if you're in a relationship and you kind of feel that you would like to speak to someone else or explore the idea of maybe therapy or counselling, something like that, this card is definitely supporting that intention. And if you're single, the Hierophant in the reverse is definitely saying to me that you need to get yourself out there, but in a different sort of way. So if there are organised singles meetups, or perhaps you have a friend who has another single friend that you quite like, that you need to kind of reach out to other people around you in order to inform better for your relationship. And when we have obviously the 10 of Cups, this is a beautiful card to come up in any reading, but it shows that you really are, either if you're in a relationship at the moment, that this is quite possibly your ideal partner. So it's worth putting in the work. It's always worth putting in the work anyway, but that it is really worth it because this person is really showing up for you as being that ideal person, that ideal partner. And also it indicates that if you are single and you're still looking, that you've obviously got a bit further to go, a bit more work to put in, but that your ideal partner is out there, is waiting for you. Oh, pardon me. Okay, so we have this idea that your ideal partner is definitely out there waiting. You've just kind of got to do a bit more work in order to meet them. And then when we have the 4 of Swords, we have that idea of kind of sometimes we're our own worst enemy and holding ourselves back from achieving things. And I think sometimes we can do this because we feel that we've been hurt before and we don't necessarily want to get ourselves into that position again. Of course not, self-preservation, but that actually risking getting your heart broken is worth it really for the possible relationship that you could find that lies in your future. So I would say if you're kind of on the edge or kind of thinking about dating or getting back on the dating scene, or maybe you're kind of ready to give up on a relationship that's not really working, I would encourage you to kind of think around that and, you know, examine your motivations really, like, am I giving up on this or am I giving up on myself, which is kind of 2 different things. Obviously if a relationship is not working and you know that it's not working, it is worth obviously leaving, separating and moving forward into something that is waiting for you out there, more positive. But by the same token, you don't want to self-sabotage a relationship that is beautiful, that is working well, because you're allowing your own kind of demons to sit on your shoulder and whisper in your ear about it either. So over this full moon and the next couple of weeks, I'd really say, you know, whether you are in a relationship, single, dating, really kind of think about reaching out to someone else in order to deepen your relationship and make that something better. So either maybe a therapist, relationship counsellor, maybe go to some more organised singles events or look at friends who may be able to set you up. Or if you're really happily single, of course, then maybe look at this as a time to improve yourself and find a mentor or a teacher who can help you kind of flourish and dig more deeply into your self-love. So join a new yoga class or do some self-improvement. Loads of options to consider with that, because ultimately this is going to be a really good couple of weeks when it comes to harmony in all your relationships. But reaching out to someone else to help you achieve that is going to be important, and also steering clear of any kind of sabotaging tactics or previous trauma is also going to be important. So don't let the past disrupt your present, which is beautiful. So these are our cards for the full moon in Aries. I will catch up with you again on the new moon in Scorpio. Hello to Pisces. It is now time to do your full moon energy read. So let's see what cards we have coming up for us tonight. We will give them a good shuffle and see who jumps out. Woo! Okie dokie. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's see who we've got. So we've got the Two of Wands, we've got the Knight of Swords in the reverse, and then we've also got the Moon in the reverse. Okay, so obviously we're looking at relationships for this full moon. That's our primary focus when we're looking at our energy reading. And with the Two of Wands, what I'm getting immediately is that sense that there is opportunities out there, the world is out there, and you want to be out there as well, but that maybe for whatever reason you're kind of feeling a little bit held back. So the Knight of Swords in the reverse is definitely giving me that, coupled with the Two of Wands, that kind of push-pull feeling of, oh my gosh, there's these great opportunities and I want to get to them, but something is pulling me back. And because it is a relationship read, I would say that the core of that dilemma is in your current relationship at the moment. So this could be a relationship that you're currently in, where you have that conflict of wanting to put yourself out there, wanting to do more things, but also kind of feeling held back, like you're not able to. And that could be for a number of reasons. Maybe you are committed to a job, or to children, or to parents. There could be something where you just feel like, oh, I really want to go and do this thing, but there is something in my life, a relationship, a person that is holding me back. It could also be, say, an ex-partner, where there are opportunities and things that you want to go for, but because you have a complicated relationship with an ex-partner, maybe there's legalities involved, you just can't do that at the moment, which can feel quite frustrating. But because we have the Moon coming up in the reverse, I would say that on this full moon that we really want to dive deeper into releasing any of those negative feelings and emotions that we have connected to a relationship that is holding us back. Now, this could be something that is going on right now, or it could even be something from our past where we really were in a victim position in a relationship where we felt that someone was physically, emotionally holding us back from reaching our full potential, and it's something that we've not yet maybe fully come to terms with. Or it could be something that's going on now that we have a lot of active frustrations towards, but we want to let those go, because the more we kind of stay in a stagnating, stressed, frustrated space, the more it festers, and it kind of makes more of the same. You know, energy goes where our energy flows, where our focus goes. So we always want to try and be focusing on what is positive in a situation. Obviously not not being overly positive about things that are negative, but we want to try and find, you know, the way through a difficult situation. So when we have the Moon in the reverse, we really want to be letting go, giving that that heavy sigh, releasing, giving ourselves permission to get upset, to get angry, to feel upset about something that has happened to us, to really fully live in that upset and in that moment, in order that we can then let it go and then move forward in the most possible way for our relationships for the future. Because relationships are complicated things, really, because once we're in a relationship, it can inform so deeply on where our life goes next. So we always want to be really aware about who our partners are and how we're interacting with them, because it can be very damaging to us on lots of different levels, obviously physically, emotionally, but also on a spiritual level as well. So we want to always be kind of thinking about who are we letting have access to us. And equally, if you're single, I would still say that there is something in your past that is pulling you back, and it's from a previous relationship where you felt that someone had a control over you that you didn't have any choice with, and that you felt that that meant that you missed out on something. Though, so obviously the Two of Wands suggests to me something opportunistic, but it could equally be that they kind of held you back and you feel like you lost time, you know, where a relationship was stagnating and you felt you couldn't leave, or they were pressuring you, or a various amount of scenarios can come up. But it's that idea that you felt held back, and the negativity, the toxicity of that relationship has kind of seeped into your psyche when it comes to dating and relationships. And we really want to try and flush that out on this new moon. You know, this is the blood moon. Go, you know, howl at it, let go of all of that negativity, all of those energies, and just say, you know, I am not living in this space of this stress anymore. I'm going to let this past relationship trauma go in a healthy way. If you, obviously, I'm not a relationship counsellor, or if there is something far deeper there, obviously, you know, seek someone that can help you through that. But if it is just, you know, a really horrid breakup that's hung around and that's, you know, still in the corners of your mind, I would just say that now is the time to get rid of that completely and really free yourself for this new season. you know, with this full moon as we move forward into October and then of course into Scorpio season. So these are your cards for the full moon in Aries, and we will chat again on the new moon in Scorpio. Okay, so those are our full moon in Aries readings. I'm going to go and do my own full moon ritual now, but thank you so much for joining me. I love getting to spend this time with you and chat with you and see what comes up for our energy readings. These times of the month, the full moon and the new moon, are always so full and charged with energy, and it's really lovely to set our intentions, see what comes up, and then move forward over the next couple of weeks together. But I wish you a beautiful full moon, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Bye.